the norms about working wage, it disrupts many, many norms. Now, in other democracies, it often goes to maybe a referendum, maybe a vote, maybe the members of the parliament have a long debate, and so on. But in Taiwan, we believe in asking the people, what should we do together? So what we actually did is to ask everyone, taxi drivers, Uber drivers, Uber passengers, and so on, to go to this new website. It's called ETHTokyo. And the website is a pro-social form of social media. Unlike other kinds of social media, which often just surfaces the content that lets people hate each other or attack each other or make fun of each other, the ETHTokyo website uses POLIS. And POLIS is one of the plural technologies that highlights the common understanding between people who otherwise have no commonalities altogether. So, for example, people may disagree very much about whether it's a sharing economy or it's an extractive economy or gig economy. But it turns out everybody agreed that insurance is very important. Everybody agreed that it's okay to raise the price when there's a surge of demand. But undercutting existing meters is more fun, and so on. So actually, people have much more in common than they originally thought, thanks to this kind of plural bridge-making technologies. And so we have been evolving this way of bridging across differences in Taiwan for many, many years. Recently, another example. This March, we see a lot of deepfakes, AI-generated scans, and so on the social media, on the advertisement companies. Many people see a celebrity and it's deepfaked. And then if they click on the advertisement, even a chatbot, or even they do some voice calls, and nowadays even video calls, but it's all deepfaked. And so people feel very strongly that something must be done. And so in Taiwan, we again use a platform. We sent SMS to 200,000 random people in Taiwan. So the idea here is that everybody has the same chance of receiving the SMS, again asking, how do you feel about online deepfake? What should we do about it? Now, of the people who responded, we asked, where do you live? What's your occupation, gender, age, and so on. And then we invited 450 people. That is statistically representative of the entire Taiwanese population. And then, for almost an entire day, they meet online in rooms of 10 people each, so 45 different rooms. And again, these rooms uses this kind of plural bridge-making technologies to facilitate conversation among the 10 people. And so there's no facilitator, no moderator. The room itself is the facilitator. And then, if you do not speak for a while, the room pushes you to speak. You can disrupt each other, but only for 5 seconds. And for during the entire conversation, the real-time transcript, like this one, is shown to people, as well as how they differ and what are the commonalities, the uncommon common ground among the people in the room. And so what it does is that it enables broad listening. It listens to the 450 people in the talk and shows people at the plenary sessions after each breakout discussion what are the consensus that is put by this kind of plural technologies. So, for example, people all agreed that the social media company that sells advertisements like Facebook or YouTube, they need to do KYC. They need to, if the advertisement shows Audrey Tang, they need to secure Audrey Tang's digital signature or some other way to show that I have approved this use of my likeness in the advertisement. And if they do not secure this KYC signature, then if somebody gets conned for $1 million, then those social media companies need to be liable for that $1 million. They need to pay for that $1 million loss because they did not do their know your customer, their KYC well. Now, those suggestions are the ones that are proposed by those individual groups, and they were surfaced together with language models. And then people can see at a glance what are the ideas after conversation, after deliberation, that most people, 85% or more people, actually agree on. And then we sent them to the parliament. And then the parliament has, just a few weeks ago, passed a law. So just 3 months after the initial collaboration. The best ideas that people come up with that speak across the differences that become this bridge, become law. So this is, again, one example of how plural technologies can help bridge differences. So a few days ago, Vitalik wrote a very long blog post about plurality, the philosophy, and he highlighted that it can be applied to all sorts of different skills. What I talked about is the whole society scale, like making a law for the entire country. But it can also be applied on an individual scale as well. He uses the example of message checker. So we just talked about advertisement. Advertisements are public, everybody can see. But there are also like direct messages. There's also group chats over encrypted channels, maybe WhatsApp, maybe Signal, maybe Line, and so on. And so still there are many scams, there are many disinformation, rumors, and things like that. But the problem of that is that you cannot tell Signal to look into each individual message. Signal will tell you it's end-to-end encrypted, I cannot see it anyway. And so what Vitalik proposed is to do the checking, but not on the server side, but rather on the recipient side. In Taiwan, there is a product called Message Checker, and it is from Google. And what it does is that on Android phones, it manages your notifications. So no matter which messaging app you use, as long as it pops up a notification, it can compare each of the incoming message so that it matches, for example, a known wallet address that is scam. Or it matches it against something that you already know. It is disinformation. Or it can connect to one of those collective fact-checking databases that everybody can add context to those spreading rumors and so on. And so the great thing about this is that there is a lot of autonomy. There is the right to exit. You don't have to subscribe to all the different filters or different scanning of the message checker. Each one is independent. But there is also coordination because the more people use the shared models like advertisement blockers and so on, the more willingness there is to invest into an ecosystem of collaborative sense making and fact checking and things like that. And so this is drawing by Vitalik. He says that both are important, like autonomy is always required to keep the coordination structure honest. Otherwise, you will have one single company or one single state scanning all your messages. But coordination among those autonomous organizations is also required to make sure those structures that protect our autonomy can continue to exist. So how to keep this balance is also very important when it comes to plurality. So technically, plurality means technologies for collaboration across diversity. But think about it, collaboration is much easier if it's just among a few people. Like between 3 people, between 4 people, it's easy to coordinate. Now think about 40 million people, very difficult to collaborate. So there is a natural tension between the number of people, the breadth of the ideas that comes from different corners of the society, and the tension that the deep conversations, deliberations, and so on that's required to get to actual collaboration. And so in the book, Plurality.net, we show a lot of ways how technology can help to either listen to the same amount of people, but much more deeply, for example, with real-time assistance from language models and so on, or we can have the same depth, but listen to much more people by, again, scaling out these ideas of listening. Another example is actually a Japanese example. Recently, in the Tokyo gubernatorial election, Takahiro Ano-san, who worked with a team that works on the translation of the Plurality book, uses the stack that we describe in the book, including Talk to the City and other open source technologies to run as a kind of VTuber. You can call or you can use the hashtag Tokyo AI, I believe, and to input your messages into Ano-san's platform. And his platform is on GitHub. So whenever there is a constructive feedback and so on, not only do the GitHub revises his platform, but actually the VTuber re-records the platform so that you can see he evolves in real time. And this way, he was able to listen to more than 15,000 different suggestions of how Tokyo should be run, and successfully visualizes the commonalities, the clusters, the unlikely consensus between those very different ideas. Now imagine if there's no open source technologies that bridges those differences. If you had to independently pick up the phone to talk to 15,000 people, that is not very scalable. And so, well, we have described work not just on the state scale or an individual scale, but also on the group scale, whenever you want to listen broadly and deeply across many people. Now, this idea of digital democracy did not start like with GovZero, but GovZero is the one that I'm invested most time in and the most familiar with. In 2012, a bunch of Taiwanese people, civic hackers, attended the Yahoo Hack Day hackathon, just like the ETHTokyo hackathon. And their hackathon topic is to visualize the national budget, because the national budget at the time was in PDF, very difficult to understand, and they think that by visualizing it and making sure that people can comment on it, people can very quickly surface the part of the budget that can actually use more scrutiny and also use more citizen participation. And so using the prize that they have won from the hackathon, they have been running 2 months, every 2 months, bi-monthly hackathons until today, so it's more than 12 years. And the idea always is to keep a open source, hands-on and public spirited contribution to fork the government. Now, forking is very familiar to everybody here. Forking means to take something, instead of destroying it or writing it off, you just steer it to a different direction. This is what forking means. And in a lot of the GovZero experiments, we have forked, for example, the national dictionary. We have forked the budget visualization. As I mentioned, we have forked the national conversation deliberation platform into ETH1 and many, many other projects. So those websites that starts as something.gov.tw, when they get forked by G0v, they get mounted into something.g0v.tw. So changing an O to a 0 gets you into the shadow government. That is more fun, that is more participatory. And so this is like a demonstration. This is not a protest. A protest is saying this is bad. A demonstration is saying this could be better, and this is how it looks like when it becomes better. And because GovZero, again, is always open source, so more often than not, the governments see that, oh, it's possible to do it this way, and then just merges back. And so now if you go to the national join platform, the national visualization platform for budgets and so on, you see something like GovZero very much, but it is because it has already merged in the GovZero code and design and way to work. And so this kind of fork and merge governance is very different, right? It is different from the state controlling what the possibilities of technologies. It is different from this idea of protecting human rights by setting very strong guardrails across technologies. Yeah. It is also very different from this idea of entrepreneurs, and when they move too fast and break too many things, then they must do something afterwards, but let them run wild for a while. So all these different paradigms have something to teach. Of course, the investment to infrastructure, the emphasis on human rights, and the freedom to innovate. But if you combine these together so that for each fork, there's also many people who want to be merged back, then get into the fork and merge kind of democracy that we promoted in Taiwan. And so core to these ideas are bridging systems. The bridging systems I just talked about, again, is to surface that unlikely common understanding among the people who disagree with each other. But you can also find many other ways to build such bridges across projects. One example, since 2018, we host the presidential hackathon every year in Taiwan. In presidential hackathon, everybody can submit their ideas, and there's like 200 or so ideas, projects every year. But unlike a hackathon that runs just for a few days, the presidential hackathon runs for 3 months or 4 months. It's a very long incubation period. What we are looking for is people who try a new idea in a local vicinity and maybe a neighborhood and so on. And to scale that idea, they would need the government to invest into the public infrastructure, for example, around remote healthcare or along the identities, digital signatures, and things like that. But they can always just prototype in a small town or a small district. The 200 ideas every year are voted into the top 20 in order to get the incubation. And the way of voting we use is called quadratic voting. Quadratic voting means that when you go into the presidential hackathon website, you have 99 credits, 99 points. And if you want to support your friend's project, you start voting for it. You discover 1 vote costs you 1 point, but 2 votes cost you 4 points. 3 votes going to cost you 9 points. It's quadratic, so 4, 16, and so on. So with 99 points, you can vote 9 votes, which cost 81. But you cannot vote 10 votes, because that would cost 100, right? And so with 99 points, you vote 9 votes to your friend's project, and you still have, 18 left. Nobody wants to throw that 18 away. So unlike other voting methods that do not have this bridging capability, the quadratic voting promotes people's willingness to look at other projects, the other 200 projects, and find synergy between those projects and the one that you came to support. And so maybe you find something that you really like and you vote for, that's 16. You still have 2 points left. So people will look for another project. And at the fourth project, maybe they found maybe the original 9 votes is too much, it costs too much. Maybe you take something back and maybe you do a 7 and 7 or something like that. And so the idea here is that it lets people vote with the actual synergy across different projects. Everybody becomes a bridge to discover the potential synergy between those different projects. So when we choose the top 20, we not only make everybody feel they have won, because it's likely that they supported one of the top 20, but also the other 200 also are not lost, because we can have a group selfie and show those 200 which of those top 20 have synergy the most with them according to quadratic voting, and then they can support the other top 20 if they're furthering the same kind of public infrastructure. And so after 3 months, 4 months of presidential hackathon, the top 5 teams receive a trophy from the president. The trophy is a projector. If you turn on the projector, it projects the president giving you the trophy. So it's self-describing and very meta. And what it does is that it promises that whatever you did in the past few months on a local scale will become digital public infrastructure on the next fiscal year. So this is how we ensure that this nationwide public infrastructure can be sourced across the different localities, different vicinities, and different departments, and making sure that the actual infrastructure that we invest in, like the DID wallet for zero knowledge, verifiable credentials, selective disclosure, and so on, actually fulfills the needs of multiple different projects thanks to the discovery process of the presidential hackathon. So this is how we have used those ideas of plurality in digital democracy. Now, to many of you in the Ethereum community, the things I just said actually sounds familiar because it is not just Taiwan that uses quadratic voting or quadratic funding or zero knowledge proofs or other things. Ethereum community uses that too. Because in many senses, Ethereum community is also like a polity with many different coordinations going on based on the various infrastructure projects on layer 2 and so on that will need to interoperate somehow, and that will actually need this kind of signals to show people how to bridge across the differences. So it is not a strange thing that we in Taiwan constantly look at what are the latest ways, like Bitcoin or some other innovations Ethereum community are using those plural technologies. And once you tried it and we see that it works somewhat stably, and then we will just use this in the Taiwan population the next year or so. So it's a little bit like a research and development relationship. But also, I think the ethos of the Ethereum community is really plural. It is not about having one single way in a top-down way that solves all the problems on the short term, but rather it is about playing what's sometimes called the infinite game. So infinite games are different from just one-shot games that have a very clear competition, one winner, everybody else loses. As I mentioned, even the presidential hackathon or the veto conversations, the POLIS conversations, the alignment assembly, and so on, they're designed to be games that reaches more people every round it plays. So the main goal of playing the game is not to win this round, but rather to make sure that the entire society and people who have not played these games find these games interesting, find these games convincing, and find these games as contributing to bridging across the cultural or the other differences so that they can see, oh, playing this game actually makes sense to me too, even though that I was not part of the previous rounds. And so this is, I think, how capitalism can be reconciled with the long-term thinking. If you start a company and so on, working on a purpose, and the purpose is very long-term, then you probably will design your strategies in such a way that increases the participation of the entire field instead of destroying the field as you run your business. And so the idea of infinite games, I think, underpins both the idea of digital democracy, because democracy is itself an infinite game, but also how we design the rules and apply those plural technologies within our communities. So recently, there's a book, Network States, that talks about how to find people who identify with the same values as you and then exit together to form a new polity. It is a very interesting idea. But as Vitalik explained in his recent blog, the idea of plurality is more like network societies. So it is not just exiting together to form a new state. It is to influence the existing states that we are in. And not just states, not just the Shibuya City, or not just the Tokyo metropolitan government, or the national government, or the other governments, but also around our schools, around our businesses, our families, and so on. Each of those different levels can make use of the kind of plural technologies that I just talked about, to understand each other better, to take group selfies, to come to common understanding better, and all in all, just to bridge across our differences in a way that speaks to everybody. And this is not one single state, this is across many societies. And so I think one of the main things that I think the plurality movement has been able to join the civic tech people, like Code for Japan and so on, Code Zero and so on, as well as the Web3 people, is this common willingness to experiment with how societies can be networked together and how to discover better ways so that once we know what we all want for the short term, for the medium term, for the longer term, how to articulate it so to make the game bigger and to make sure that more people want to play this game together. This is a common wish that's shared both by the Web3 people as well as by the digital democracy people. And so we're not just talking about it, we're practicing it. And so this is the 60 or so contributors in the first edition of the book. If you download the audiobook, it is also a blending of everybody's voices from Plurality.net, and it is free of copyright. It is entirely CC0. Wow. So feel free to go to Plurality.net and download a few chapters and change it and call it your book, and it's all fine. But the thing here is that it is a common resource that is undergoing rapid editioning, and people are translating it to different languages, to different media. I believe there's a manga version in the works. There's also a novel version called Any Human Power that is published by Minna Scott, a Scottish novelist, and many other versions that tries to convey this idea of collaboration across diversity. So feel free to join us at plurality.net. And so one last thing. A lot of the participation of the Plurality.net centers around bridging across different communities. And for many communities, we have found that it is easier to tell the story, not from a technical standpoint, not from a theoretical standpoint, but from like a personal story. And And we encourage many people in the plurality movement to tell their personal stories. And this is my personal story called Good Enough Ancestor. And I'm going to show you a 3-minute trailer. The full 21-minute version will be released to festivals in a few weeks. And hopefully there's going to be many more film adaptations about the core ideas of plurality, and that shows people outside of technology, outside of democracy, outside of the theoretical circles, that it is actually possible for people to simply ask each other, how should we do something together, and come to unlikely common ground. So let's play the video.
Across the world, democracy is on a decline.
Authoritarianism is on the rise.
World freedom has eroded for the 18th consecutive year.
Audrey Tang, what is your greatest hope for democracy across the globe?
That people see democracy as a social technology, something that people can construct together, that they can improve in the here and now. We can code up political systems.
The Sunflower Movement was a real turning point for Taiwan's democracy.
When the Sunflower Movement happened, I said to my colleague, I have to leave now, democracy needs me. I brought a very long cable for internet connection. I live streamed through Twitter. Everybody saw it is possible for democracy to evolve, to come up with novel policies simply by asking the people, what should we do together? I was born with a heart defect, and one day I just fainted. I woke up in the hospital, and they told me the hole in my heart has grown. I could die. This awareness that everything can be reset tomorrow reminds me of Taiwanese democracy. We can lose our democracy just with a couple of missiles.
I think there is a lot that the world can learn from Taiwan. The US is running on a 250-year-old operating system. There is a strong desire to move beyond this and properly rethink from first principles. What would democracy in the 21st century actually look like?
We can make the government more open to the public. It'll be easier for people to access the data, to analyze it, transparency.
Audrey has created the opportunity to make Taiwan the most exciting constitutional democracy in the world.
I think it's a very critical moment. China really wants to invade Taiwan.
中国统一是历史必然。
You're sitting on a place that is the flashpoint if there's going to be World War III. And yet there's calm in the eye of the hurricane. And that calm, I think, emanates from all that Audrey has done.
We can become co-creators of our democratic system, reconfiguring society in a way that is more transparent, more inclusive, more fair. All right, thank you so much.